everybody. This is GunsInThe701.com's Badass of the Week, and I'm Mike. And as we do every week, we try to give you a little history on some badass out there that you might not have known about. This time, we're talking about Daniel Inouye. Born in 1924 in Honolulu Territory of Hawaii, his father, Hirito Inouye, was a jeweler who had immigrated to Hawaii from Japan as a child. His mother, Kame Inouye, was a homemaker, born on the island of Maui to Japanese immigrants. Now, both of Daniel's parents were Christian and met at the River Street Methodist Church in Honolulu. They were married in 1923. Now, this heritage makes Daniel a Nisei, or second-generation Japanese-American. Inouye grew up in a Bingham tract in a Chinese-American enclave in Honolulu. He was the oldest among 4 children, and as a child, he collected homing pigeons, which hatched from eggs given to him at an army base in Schofield Barracks in return for him cleaning the coops. As a teenager, he worked on the local beaches, teaching tourists how to surf. Inouye's parents raised him and his siblings with a mix of American and Japanese customs. His parents spoke English at home, but had their children attend a private Japanese language school in addition to public school. Inouye dropped out of the Japanese school in 1939 because he disagreed with the instructor's anti-American rhetoric, and then focused his studies at President William McKinley High. Now, he intended to go to college and medical school after his planned 1942 graduation. Then Inouye witnessed the attack of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The Japanese surprise attack brought the United States right into World War II. Now, being a volunteer first aid instructor with the Red Cross, Inouye was called on by his supervisors to report to a Red Cross station set up at Lunaleo Elementary School. There, he attended to the civilian injured by anti-aircraft shells that had fallen onto the city. Now, after the United States declared war on Japan the next day, Inouye took up a paid job from his Red Cross supervisor to work there as a medical aide. For the remainder of his senior year, Inouye attended school during the day and worked at the Red Cross station at night. He graduated from McKinley High School in 1942. Now, although Inouye wanted to join the armed forces after graduating, he did not possess the rights as a Japanese American. The United States Department of War had declared that all Japanese Americans were enemy aliens, which stipulated they could not volunteer or be drafted for military service. Inouye then enrolled at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in September of 1942 as a pre-medical student with the goal of becoming a surgeon. In March of 1943, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt established the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, an all-Nisei combat unit. Inouye applied and was initially turned down because his work at the Red Cross was deemed critical, but was inducted later that month. The unit was composed of over 2,500 Nisei from Hawaii and 800 from the mainland. Inouye went with his unit in April to Camp Shelby in Mississippi for a 10-month training period. Now, while in Mississippi, the unit visited the Rohar War Relocation Center in Arkansas, where Inouye witnessed the internment of Japanese Americans firsthand. The 442nd shipped off to Italy in May of 1944 after the conclusion of their training. Shortly before liberation of Rome, Inouye was promoted to sergeant within the first 3 months of fighting in the Italian countryside north of Rome. The 442nd was then sent to eastern France, where they seized the towns of Bruges, Bellemont, and Bifontaine, all from the Germans. In late October, the regiment was transferred to the Vosges mountain regions in France, where they rescued 211 members of the 1st Battalion of the 141st Infantry Regiment, otherwise known as the Lost Battalion. Inouye received a battlefield commission to second lieutenant for his actions, becoming the youngest officer in his regiment. Now, getting into his badassery. During the battle, a shot struck him in the chest directly above his heart, but the bullets were stopped by $2 silver that he happened to have stacked in his shirt pocket. He continued to carry those coins throughout the war in his shirt pocket as good luck charms, but lost them later on. Now, the 442nd spent the next several months near Nice, guarding the French-Italian border until early 1945, when they were called to northern Italy to assist with an assault on the German strongholds in the Apennine Mountains. On April 21, 1945, Inouye was grievously wounded while leading an assault on a heavily defended Colle Mostatolo Ridge near Santorizio, Italy. Now, the ridge served as a strong point of the German fortifications known as the Gothic Line, the last and most unyielding line of German defense works in Italy. Now, during a flanking maneuver against German machine gun nest, Inouye was shot in the stomach from 40 yards away. Ignoring his wound, he proceeded with the attack and, together with the unit, destroyed the first two machine gun nests. Now, as his squad distracted the third machine gunner, the injured Inouye crawled slowly towards the final bunker and came within 10 yards. Now, as he prepared to toss a grenade, a German soldier fired a 30mm Schweichenbacher anti-personnel rifle grenade at Inouye, striking him in the right elbow. Now, although it failed to detonate, the blunt force of the grenade, for the most part, amputated most of his right arm, all at the elbow. The nature of his injuries caused his arm muscles to involuntarily squeeze the grenade tightly via a reflex arc, preventing his arm from going limp and dropping the live grenade at his feet. Now, this injury left him disabled, in terrible pain, under fire with minimal cover, and staring at a live grenade clenched in a fist that suddenly did not belong to him anymore. Inouye's platoon moved to his aid, but he shouted at them to keep back out of fear that his severed fist would involuntarily relax and drop the grenade, possibly hurting them. Now, as the Germans inside the bunker began reloading his rifle with regular full metal jacket ammunition to finish off Inouye pried the live hand grenade from his useless right hand with his left, tossing it into the bunker, killing the German. Then, stumbling to his feet, Inouye continued forward, killing at least one more German before sustaining his fifth and final wound of the day in his left leg. Inouye fell unconscious, but awoke to see his worried men of his platoon hovering over him. His only comment before being carried away was to gruffly order them to get back to their positions, saying nobody called off this war. By the end of the day, the ridge had fallen to the American control, without the loss of any soldiers in Inouye's platoon. The remainder of Inouye's mutilated right arm was later amputated at a field hospital without proper anesthesia, as he had been given too much morphine at the aid station, and it was feared that any more would lower his blood pressure enough to kill him. The war in Europe ended on May 8th, less than 3 weeks later. Shortly before the Japanese surrendered at the end of World War II in August of 1945, Inouye was shipped back to the United States to recover for 11 months at a rehabilitation center for wounded soldiers in Atlantic City, New Jersey. In mid-1946, Inouye was transferred to the Percy Jones Army Hospital in Battle Creek, Michigan, to continue with rehabilitation for 9 months. While recovering there, Inouye met future Republican Senator and presidential candidate Bob Dole. Bob Dole met him. He did. Now, Bob Dole was a fellow patient. The two became friends and would often play bridge together. Dole shared with Inouye his long-term plans to attend law school and become an attorney, and later run for United States legislator and eventually United States Congress. With Inouye's plans to become a surgeon pretty much dashed due to his injuries, Dole's plan for a career in public service inspired Inouye to consider entering politics himself. Inouye ultimately beat Dole to Congress. Now, the two remained lifelong friends. In 2003, the hospital was renamed the Hart Dole Inouye Federal Center in honor of the two World War II veterans, as well as Democratic Senator Phil Hart, who had been a patient at the hospital after sustaining injuries on D-Day. Now, Inouye was honorably discharged with the rank of captain in May of 1947 after 20 months of rehabilitation. At the time, he was the recipient of the Bronze Star, Distinguished Service Cross, and 3 Purple Hearts. Many of his regiment believe that, were he not Japanese American, he would have been awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military award. Inouye eventually received the Medal of Honor on June 21st, year 2000, from President Bill Clinton, along with 19 other Japanese American servicemen in the 442nd. Now, Inouye decided to study law, hoping that it would lead him to a political career. He enrolled at the University of Hawaii in Manoa in late of 1947 as a pre-law student majoring in government and economics. He relied on the financial benefits of the GI Bill to fund his education. When not in class, Inouye would volunteer at the Honolulu County Democratic Committee. He had been talked into joining the party by John A. Burns, a former police captain and future governor who had ties to the Japanese American community. Now, in between this time, he met a speech instructor named Margaret Alamar at the university, whom he married in 1948. After graduating in 1950, Inouye moved with his wife to Washington, D.C., so he could continue his studies at George Washington University Law School. While there, he volunteered at the Democratic National Committee, headquartered to gain more experience to bring back with him to Hawaii. Now, Inouye earned his JD degree in 2 years and moved back with his wife to Hawaii in late 1952. Inouye then spent the next year studying for the Hawaii bar exam and volunteering for the Democratic Party. After passing the bar exam in August 1953, Inouye was appointed assistant public prosecutor for the city and county of Honolulu by the city mayor and fellow Democrat John Wilson. At the urging of Burns, Inouye successfully ran for the Hawaii Territorial House of Representatives in November 1954's election, representing the 4th District. The election came to be known as the Hawaii Democratic Revolution of 1954, as the long-entrenched Republican control of Hawaii Territory legislature abruptly ended with the wake of Democratic candidates taking their seats. Now, Inouye was immediately elected majority leader. He served 2 terms there and elected to the Hawaii Territorial Senate in 1957. Midway through Inouye's first term in the territorial state, Hawaii achieved statehood. Now, he won the seat in the U.S. House of Representatives as Hawaii's first full member and took office in August 21st of 1959. The same date, Hawaii became a state. Prior to his death, Inouye announced that he planned to run for a record 10th term in 2016, when he would have been 92 years old. He also said, "I have told my staff and I have told my family that when the time comes when you question my sanity or question my ability to do the things physically or mentally, I don't want you to hesitate. Do everything to get me out of there, because I want to make certain the people of Hawaii get the best representation possible." Another reason I think this guy was super badass. Now, in 2012, Inouye began using a wheelchair to preserve his knees. He received an oxygen concentrator to aid his breathing, and in November of 2012, he made several trips to the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center because of injuries. On December 17th, he died of complications to some injuries. His final words, aloha. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid announced Inouye's death on the floor of the Senate, referring to Inouye as certainly one of the giants of the Senate. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell referred to Inouye as one of the finest senators in the United States history. Inouye's body laid in state at the United States Capitol Rotunda on December 20th, 2012. Quick rundown of some things. In 2007, the Citadel dedicated the Inouye Hall at the Citadel, South Carolina Army National Guard Marksmanship Center to Senator Inouye, who helped make the center possible. In May of 2013, Secretary of the Navy Ray Mambus announced the next Arleigh Burke-class destroyer would be named the U.S. Daniel Inouye DDG-118. The destroyer was officially christened at Bath Iron Works on June 22nd, 1919. In November 2013, the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association renamed its Trailblazing Award in honor of Inouye, honoring him with the Senator Daniel Ken Inouye Trailblazing Award. In December 2013, the Advanced Technical Solar Telescope in Halakela Observatory on the Maui Island was renamed the Daniel Ken Inouye Solar Telescope. The Hawaiian Air National Guard Daniel Ken Inouye Fighter Squadron Operation and Aircraft Maintenance Facility was christened in 2014. Senator Daniel Ken Inouye Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency building was named in 2015. And I could really speak for another 20 minutes on just the things named after this total badass. But let's get to the point. Daniel Ken Inouye at an early age showed that the belief in the American system is greater than any other calling. That's why I'm calling it once again, Daniel Ken Inouye, 100% total American badass. Sources for this story from Wikipedia was U.S. Senate Daniel Ken Inouye, a featured biography. Daniel Ken Inouye, World War II U.S. Army Medal of Honor recipient. We thank everybody for tuning in for another episode of GunsIn701.com's Badass of the Week. We try to pick somebody every week and give you a little something for history. Don't forget about our podcast every Wednesday night on all your social media platforms, GunsIn701.com, at 6 p.m. Mountain Time and 7 p.m. Central Time. If you notice, we got that QR code up in the corner. Hey, if you like our show and you want to help us out, a couple bucks here or there, whatever, we would love to hear from you. You can scan on that, get right to that. Any little bit will help. getting our studios up to par and keeping everything running. It's an ongoing thing, so we can always use your help. Also, don't forget to check out our store at gunsinthe701.com, where you can also buy some of our merch and more. And, of course, well, that stuff makes you look cool, so I don't care what anybody says. I think you look cool in it. Anyway, make sure you check that out. And tune in next week for our gunsinthe701.com's Badass of the Week. Until then, I'm Mike, reminding you, as my friend Clay always says, keep your powder dry and stay safe, you bunch of badasses.